We the people of the state of Jefferson, ever mindful of the rights we hold most dear, life, liberty, and property, are compelled to establish this, our new state, for the preservation of these natural, inalienable rights. Our mandate for the protection of life, liberty, and property gives urgent voice to our demand for representation that reflects our needs, our history, our culture, and our moral impervitude. Time has come for 51. This is Terry Rapoza.
And Win Carpenter. You're listening to Jefferson State of Mind podcast.
How you doing, everybody? This is Terry Rapoza, Woody Clendenen, Lani Bengay, and Mark Baird, and we're here to talk today about the Second Amendment. Does California have a Second Amendment right? Does it even have one at this point? Mark, you've got a court case arguing this point. You want to go into it, brother?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because we don't have a Second Amendment in California, not at all, not even a shadow of a Second Amendment, and here's why. The California State Legislature, reacting to a protest in 1968 under then Governor Reagan and Republican Assemblyman Don Mulford, in response to a protest in Sacramento, they introduced legislation which is codified by Penal Code 25850, and that bars and bans the open carry of a loaded weapon essentially outside your door or outside the door to your business. It is prohibited to carry a weapon loaded in the state of California. There are a couple of exceptions, and those exceptions have been adjudicated again and again in the communist courts of California. And those exceptions are concealed carry, which has been judged by the Ninth Circuit on bank. The Supreme Court refused to pick up the case, so that is settled law. You may conceal carry in the state of California, provided a sheriff or a police chief gives you permission to do so. It is a permission. It's not a right. It can be regulated. It can be denied. They can charge whatever they want. They can have any requirement the state wants, and you may get permission. Now, in some counties like Santa Clara County, you can get permission provided you donate enough to the Sheriff Reelection Fund. In Los Angeles County, under a previous sheriff, one of 30 people who got concealed carry permits, and those people, by and large, contributed to the campaign, the sheriff's reelection campaign. So apparently, if you buy off the right people, you may get a permit. There are some counties that are better about that than others, and there are some counties that won't issue them at all. So in short, you have no Second Amendment guarantee in the state of California, none whatsoever.
Just a privilege.
You have a privilege provided you can get the sheriff or police chief in charge of that jurisdiction to allow you to exercise that privilege.
That's funny, because even watching some of the debate in the Supreme Court over this New York case, wasn't it Kagan, however you pronounce her name, is a flaming liberal, and she said, man, why are we even having a debate about a right?
Well, she said she found it funny that the Second Amendment is the only enumerated right that you have to ask somebody's permission before you can exercise it.
When we asked our current sheriff in Shasta County, we asked him if he was a Second Amendment guy. He said, I believe in the right of the Second Amendment, but I will not allow an exposed weapon. And I asked him, how in the world can you put right and allow in the same sentence?
What did he say?
He just looked at me.
Well, here's
it's sort of like control,
Here's what the state's expert witness in our court case had to say about that. Our attorney asked him, do you believe that people have the right to defend themselves? Yes, I do. Do you believe that people's right to defend themselves extends beyond the home? Yes, I believe that. Our attorney asked him, do you believe the right to self-defense attaches to the person no matter where that person might be? Yes, I believe that. Do you believe that people have the right to keep and bear arms? Yes, I believe that. And then she said, then why don't you issue any permits in your jurisdiction in the entire 39 years you were in law enforcement? Because I believe it is bad public policy to allow people access to firearms in public. Now, my attorney asked him, do you believe that the possession of a firearm in the face of imminent threat by a superior person, either physically or with armament, could save a life? Oh, absolutely. I believe it could save many lives, provided the person had the weapon when he or she were attacked or whatever. So then why won't you issue permits? Because I believe it's bad public policy.
Oh my gosh.
What is define public policy?
Public policy.
What are we even talking about?
I will speak as though I were Police Chief Rainey, who was chief of Covina, California.
Bit, yeah.
Bad public policy is whatever I say it is.
Right.
Because he was a police chief. He was on the State Police Chiefs Association, the Law Enforcement Board. He was in other words, Chief Rainey is a manager. And he manages the public.
Right.
And guess what? You are the public. So he's going to manage you whether he has the right to or not.
So public policy is what? I mean, is that the allowed opinion in the moment? I mean, it seems kind of like an arbitrary.
It is literally whatever they say it is. Let me give you an example. It is bad public policy for the people of the state of California to own gasoline-powered lawnmowers.
Yeah.
So in 2022 or whatever it is, or 2023, you will no longer be allowed to purchase gasoline lawnmowers because it's bad public policy. Yeah. You will not be allowed to defend your life, your family's life, defend your community, state, or nation because that is bad public policy. Right. And Article 2, Section 1 of the California Constitution says that all just power is derived from the people. Government was instituted for their good. In other words, government didn't invent people. People invented government. They invented government for one reason and one reason only, to secure the rights of the governed.
Absolutely.
How did we come to a place where public policy says what you can eat, what you can own, when you can own it, how much you can own, how much it's going to cost to own it?
Now it's even what you wear.
What you wear, how you think, what you say.
I would love to ask that guy, do you think that our rights come from the government? I wonder what he thinks.
That.
I think we got to ask our own sheriffs.
Well, in the term constitutional right gives that away. When you tell a federal judge, and I've been in federal court many, many times as a peace officer and as a litigant, you tell a judge, we don't have constitutional rights. We have God-given rights that the Constitution guarantees the government will not interfere with. Right. They get so mad, their heads explode. I have had federal judges say to me, the Constitution means whatever I say it does.
Oh, wow.
I've had federal judges say, the Constitution doesn't apply in this courtroom. The Constitution doesn't apply in this case.
See, that guy should be removed. You say something like the Constitution doesn't apply in this courtroom.
Isn't that what he's sworn to? I mean,
do you know what gives us the ability to remove these people? The very amendment that they refuse to acknowledge.
The one they want to give us permission for.
The one they want to give you permission or deny permission, because if you have to ask permission, permission can be denied. Right. In other words, in our brief, we state that a right does not require permission. And if you ask permission, that's not a right. And so we have enumerated rights that are senior to other enumerated rights. There is no enumerated right for which you must ask permission prior to exercise, with a single exception of the Second Amendment. And we, the people, have allowed that. And we're the only ones that can stop it.
And we talk about things like you're doing in your case, Mark, with Baird versus Bonta. Is that the way to pronounce it?
Yeah.
And we want to talk about that in a minute. But
I would say Baird versus Bonehead is okay too.
And the thing that's really crazy about this is we keep talking about all this stuff, yet we're here in these counties and we didn't even go to our own sheriffs. People are afraid to challenge their own sheriffs, or this guy's really a good guy. He's really a good guy, except he's not going to allow you to have a God-given, constitutionally protected right. How does that make this person a person that you could, that's even lawful?
Well, I have an even better question. If my God and my Creator gives me the right to do something, what the hell am I doing going to some elected official and asking him for permission to do that which my God gave me the right to do? What kind of person does that make me?
And you hit the nail on the head, my good friend, when you said that Why is the Second Amendment the only right we have, the only protected right we have in the Constitution that we have to ask permission for?
Well, that's a good question, because Cruikshank versus United States says, and that's a Supreme Court case, says the Second Amendment is wholly disconnected from the Constitution of the United States because it predates the Constitution, and it is wholly unconnected from militia service because it predates the government. In other words, the right to defense is a human right. It's not a constitutional right. It's not a guarantee. It is a human right that every animal on the planet exercises, whether you want them to or not. I mean, even a cat is going to scratch you if you go to grab his tail. We just don't have claws and big teeth. So it is not only disconnected with the government, it is disconnected from militia service, in this case says, and further, the right itself declares that it shall not be infringed. Yeah. So what kind of court system do we have when they deny court precedent routinely? In fact, my judge got really mad at the attorney when my attorney said, "You are bound to follow Supreme Court directive." And she said, "I find that statement dangerous and frivolous, that I should be required to follow Supreme Court directive instead of the directives of my own circuit court." Well, what that tells me is this judge has never read this little booklet. And that's the Constitution of the United States, because Article 3, Section 1 very clearly says that all jurisdiction belongs to one Supreme Court. And then Section 2 says, and other inferior courts, such as Congress may establish from time to time. So federal courts and circuit courts are inferior courts. The Supreme Court is the superior court or Supreme Court. And in addition to that, the Supreme Court only has jurisdictions over matters of equity and law that arise under the Constitution. No government agency, none, not state nor federal, has extra constitutional powers. Okay.
Unless we let them.
If all that's true, why are we having this discussion today?
Yes, because we let them.
Amen.
So, being not in the weeds like you are of this, which I greatly appreciate, has there been anyone convicted of, exercising their Second Amendment right in California?
Sure.
Yeah.
There are lots of people. Yeah. Absolutely.
So they say, nope, I'm granted this right. I know it's my right. I'm going to wear my gun on my hip and walk out there. You'd get arrested and convicted for that.
That's correct. You would be convicted under California law for that. And so I suggest, though, that we look around us. And I suggest that we first look at history, because as Patrick Henry said, I have nothing but experience to guide my feet. That's the lamp of history. So I can't tell the future except by what's past. We're looking at the people of Ukraine. They went from, you can't have a gun, to, well, maybe you can have some guns now, to, if you show up to a government building, we'll give you a fully automatic rifle and all the bullets you can shoot at the enemy.
Yeah.
Well, why on earth was it up to the government to tell the people of that nation that they had the ability to defend their families and their communities? What in the hell are we thinking allowing that? And on April the 19th, 1775, we have a really good example of a bunch of people who left their church and stood out on the lawn in the middle of town, and 70 of them stood against 700 soldiers of their own government. This wasn't a revolution. It was a civil war. They were prepared to fight the most powerful army in the world, which belonged to their own government. Why? Why would they do that? Because they have the human right to defend their families, their community, their state, and their nation from not only imminent threat, but from tyranny.
Yeah.
I think you're so right, especially, talking about, people always talk about constitutional rights. We really don't have constitutional rights. We have God-given rights, and they are protected.
They are guaranteed by the Constitution that they become above government's policy table. That's the point of the enumerated rights. And the Anti-Federalists were prepared not to sign the Constitution unless they got that approved. And the Federalists said, you don't need that. The government will never take power it doesn't have.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, we're seeing that now. I think a lot of people, you were ahead of the game. You read history enough and can see it. I think some others maybe too, but now we had to see the length they pushed COVID how far it actually went. That still people are stunned
Yes.
when they look back on it. I think there's still people looking at it going,
sure.
wait,
How'd that
I was
happen?
succumbing to that? How did it get this far? How did they shut down my business?
them.
And it was just that slow training. But it's interesting that the number one way to defend, right, the great equalizer was the first one on the block. They know what they're doing.
They do. They know exactly what they're doing. I've read the Emergency Services Act 10 times, and nowhere in it did the governor receive extra constitutional powers.
Right.
Those powers are usurped, and as Patrick Henry said again, any power not expressly in the Constitution is usurped and therefore illegal.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, and you hit the nail on the head, the main thing is that the understanding of the compact, which is a contract between legitimate governments, the compact that we have is a compact between the states. The federal government is a product.
Right.
And people think that the federal government has control. They don't have control, and the states don't have a contract with the federal government. They have a contract with the
They
other
formed
states.
the contract.
Yeah,
Right.
they're
Right.
the product. And you give such a great analogy about the chicken coop.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
It
now,
was great.
But, yeah.
But anyway, I mean,
But also the state constitution, this is very important. California wasn't always a state waiting for us to show up so they could give us the rules. We made the rules that established the state of California. The state of California is the result of a contract. It is not the author of the contract. We are the authors. And for the object of the contract to turn around and tell the authors how it's going to be would never happen in any civil case or in any contract law. Never in the world. That's absolutely verboten. That's the point of the contract, to establish the rules that everyone has agreed to live by, including those positions that we create with the contract.
you're right, the delegating powers. I mean, the thing is, how can you be inferior and delegate? If the power is delegated by the states to the federal government, it's delegated in the Constitution. How can you delegate and be inferior? And I think that's where we're kind of missing the boat in a lot of this stuff. And I think we're missing the boat in not looking at it locally. Getting back to your case, where are you at right now?
The case has been stayed pending the outcome of New York versus Bruin. I listened to the oral arguments in the Supreme Court probably 10 times. I have 35 pages of notes just on those orals. The state of New York, led by their state's attorney general, is going to lose that case. The people of New York will win some measure of Second Amendment guarantee, which is an odd statement. They will win back. They will win back their guarantee of liberty, you know, if that's even possible. But there are two problems with this. Number one, I know that how the Supreme Court is going to rule in general. They're going to rule in favor of the people of the state of New York. Now, here's the open question: how far will they go? And no one knows the answer to that but them. In my heart of hearts, I know that they do not have the spine required to say the Second Amendment and there are a couple of components to that case, a couple of important elements. One is, how do states decide Second Amendment cases? Well, California uses this deal they call the tripartite two-step balanced interest approach. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds exact.
Yeah, it does. And here's how the balanced interest approach works. You have an enumerated right, but we must balance the interest of the state, which is to deny you that right, against the importance of you keeping the right. So what card do they throw every time? Public safety, public safety, public safety, public policy. And if we say it's bad for public safety and bad public policy for you to exercise that right, then that is more important than you having the right. And we can take it away from you. Now, if we say that, that triggers the tripartite part of it. What level of scrutiny do we have to assign to this in order to deny you that right? And the answer to that is however much we need to. But what they say is if we use the lowest level of scrutiny, all we have to do is say a thing and that makes the thing true. If they use intermediate scrutiny, all we have to do is really say the thing and that'll make it true, and we're going to take your right. If we use strict scrutiny, we have to prove and demonstrate that our interest outweighs the interest of the people. It has to be narrowly tailored to impact the right as little as possible. But what they still do anyway is, well, this will succeed at any level of scrutiny because public safety. You know, and then they deny you the right. And that's happened in the Ninth Circuit Court of California in 50 out of the last 50 Second Amendment cases.
Wow.
The Ninth Circuit has never, ever upheld a Second Amendment right. Never. In any case. None. Not once. So that tells you that the tripartite thing is stacked against the people. Now, if the court rules the way they will, that criteria will change to history, text, and tradition. What is the plain text of the amendment? What did the founders mean when they wrote shall not be infringed? Well, I'm sure they didn't mean may not be infringed if they wrote shall not be infringed. And then what is the history of the amendment? And certainly in the state of California, for over 250 years, it has been absolutely unregulated, totally unremarkable, and never impacted public safety a whit for people to openly carry loaded weapons anywhere they wanted to, including straight into the governor's office. No one has ever been killed because of that. Even the state's expert witness says he can't remember any problem caused by open carry. There were no problems in his jurisdiction when open carry was legal. He's never even heard of a problem because caused by open carry. So that's the state's case. Now, the other part of that is, if we go to history, text, and tradition, we know that my case will certainly change character. And the other part of it is, how far are the Supremes willing to go? If they go off of their own advice, they have to say, hey, Second Amendment, constitutional carry is constitutional carry. We asked the state's expert, what does constitutional carry mean? He says, I don't know. And the attorney says, well, 23 states have it. You don't know what it means and you're an expert? I don't know what that means. Do you know what the Second Amendment says? I think it says something about you can get a gun and you can keep it in your house. That's what the state's expert says. He's never read the Constitution, even though he swore an oath to protect it. So how far will they go? I don't think the Supreme Court has the backbone to say a right is a right. I don't think they will. I think what they will do is they will say, if you have a permit scheme, you must issue the permit to anyone who requests it, provided they pay the money, jump through the hoops, sign the paperwork, pass the background check. So it is very little difference to what we have now, except they won't be able to say no to you.
It's a shall issue then.
It's a shall issue instead of a may issue, and I believe that's what they'll decide. Okay. Now, in California, concealed carry 26150 and 26155A are may issue permits. 26150B2 and 26155B2 are may issue open carry permits, which have never been issued in the history of the state. No one has ever issued an open carry permit except to a guard or a cop. So that's a permit that's never been issued. And why? Not only will the sheriffs not do it because it's bad public policy, but because the Department of Justice, even though they were instructed by the state legislature to issue these permits to the jurisdictions, they chose not to print them. So they thumb their nose at the judicial, they thumb their nose at the legislature because they refused to publish the papers required to get the permit to begin with. And penal code says any permit issued must be issued on Department of Justice approved forms. So even if your sheriff wants to issue one, he can't because he doesn't have the application. No sheriff does. And no sheriff's ever issued one anyway.
Can they create an application?
Oh, well, sure they could. They could have done it
on the back of a business
They
card.
could have done it 10 years ago when they outlawed open
Absolutely.
carry.
But their argument would be, well, we would still have to send it in to be scrutinized by the Department of Justice.
Yeah, they
approved.
have final approval.
They have the final.
And Article 5 of the California Constitution says that all sheriffs work for the state's attorney general.
Yeah, Article 5, Section 13.
So he can approve that. He can give you that permit. They can then reject the permit after they get it, because penal code also says that all pistol permits, all weapons permits have to be submitted to DOJ, and I think it's within 30 days, together with the fine, the fee. So California still has a lot of cards to play. However, we will have a right to carry in some form. Well, we won't have a right, but we'll have a permission that must be granted, provided you can pay for everything and jump through all the hoops and do all the stuff they want you to do.
So win.
It's a win.
That's what we will have. You must issue.
You
through
must.
the channels
that's
right
my
now.
belief. Now, if the Supreme Court exemplifies the courage with which we hope they will rule, then we'll have constitutional carry. But at any rate, several statutes will be struck down in the state of California. Number one, 25-850 will have to be struck down because that's a ban on the carry.
Yep.
Well, right away, as soon as they ban that, you start carrying. Why do you need a permit
if there's an injunction?
Well, why do you need a permit if it's not against the law to carry?
Right.
Now, 26-150B2 says you can get a permit to open carry, but why do you need that permit if it's okay to open carry?
If it's not banned.
If it's not banned.
You would not be convicted for carrying.
Exactly.
Right.
In other words, some things are lawful and some things are unlawful. It's not unlawful for you to wet your pants. You don't want to do it, but it's not unlawful. It's not unlawful for you to dance in the street with one tennis shoe on. That's not unlawful. And for 250 years, it was not unlawful to openly carry a loaded weapon. Well, if we strike 25-850, it will no longer be unlawful to carry a loaded weapon exposed in the state of California.
Now,
it will continue to be unlawful to carry concealed without permission.
Right.
Yeah, that's
what
they ruled that concealed carry is not protected by the Constitution.
Concealed carry is not protected, period.
But open carry is.
But open carry is.
Yeah.
So, and also 26-150 and 155B2 will have to be stricken because they're geographically specific. In other words, if you gain this shall issue permit, you can only use it in Shasta County. The minute you cross the county line, you can be arrested. And you would have to apply in 58 jurisdictions, which you can't do because 26-150B2 and 155B2 says you have to live in the jurisdiction where you get the permit. So those will have to be stricken because they're geographically particular and you could not exercise the right outside that jurisdiction, and you can't apply in other jurisdictions because you don't live there.
Isn't there limits on population too? Like it has to be
under 200,000 for 155 and 150B2. So in other words, in my case, those statutes will have to be stricken because you can't comply with them and still exercise the right throughout the state of California. So we may get more than we bargained for, and that is my prayer and my hope and my dream. And if we get that, then we can openly carry in the state of California. And if you want to get a permit to hide your gun, get one.
Well, I'm just going to say right now, if we get that, I am going to dance in the street with one tennis shoe.
Just don't pee your pants.
I don't know. You can lead. I'll follow. So those are the things. Those are my hopes and my dreams. And quite frankly, the Constitution already allows us those things. And look, I do whatever I want. I'm not worried about my rights. I exercise my right anytime I want to. Yeah. And I do it at home all the time. What I am worried about is the people that are the reason I've spent $100,000 on this and need to find 60,000 more is because I worry about the people that are too afraid to exercise their liberty, and I'd like them to have it too. It's not for me. I don't care. I'm so old, if they want to put me in jail, all I get is a free place to live and some meals.
Is there a place where people can, well, there is a place people can donate. I have it right
Yes.
here. Okay?
Yeah.
To help your case. And that would be you send your check to 14421 Old Oregon Trail, Suite B, Redding, California, 96003. I'll repeat that. 14421 Old Oregon Trail, Suite B, Redding, California. You make your check out to Pecan. That's PECAN. And in the memo, you must write Second Amendment. And we can help you out with that. Folks, whatever you can contribute, this is something to where it's a shame we have to go to court to protect our God-given, constitutionally protected rights, but it's what we have to do. And Mark, you've been amazing with this. All of us thank you from the bottom of our heart, and we'll do whatever we can do to get programs out like this. Any final thoughts? Yeah. I also have a fundraiser on April 9th, and let me just give my phone number very quickly. It's 530-227-6729. We're going to put up, we've got over 20 guns we're going to raffle off. You got a 1 in 10 chance of winning a gun. And it's 530-227-6729, and there are still a few tickets left. Oh, there is. Okay. And where is this location? It's going to be at the Miners Inn Convention Center in Wairika, California, April 9th. Doors open at 5. It's going to be a lot of fun, prime rib dinner. But notwithstanding that, if you can't show up, help us. Yeah. We can, look, folks, we are the people that created the document that is now being used to subjugate us. We can win this, but not alone.
Right.
and share this program. We're on Facebook, we're on Rumble, we're on Apple Podcast. Am I forgetting anything, brother?
Mountaintop Media.
Mountaintop Media. MountaintopMedia.com. If you go to mountaintopmedia.com, you can be in a hut with a computer. If you've got internet service, you can find us there. But share this program. Help us get liberty back. And Mark, from all of us, I mean, thank you, brother. We're here with you. And let's just get this whole thing done. It's time has come for 51. Let's get it done.
Amen.
Right on.
Hey, CA, come out and play. Have you seen the bill we all have to pay? It's not our bill. We had no say. You don't serve us, you serve LA. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind.